Hi friends, welcome back. Today we're talking about trapezoids. So if you remember back to our quadrilateral chart here, some quadrilaterals are parallelograms, some are trapezoids, and some are kites. Today we're going to be talking about trapezoids. So let's talk about the trapezoid and what those properties are going to look like. So some quadrilaterals can be trapezoids, as I just mentioned, and the properties of a trapezoid are that the sides are exactly one pair of opposite sides, or for the sides are exactly one pair of opposite sides are parallel. So you'll see that marked here. If the other two are also parallel, that's a parallelogram, not a trapezoid. And the angles, exactly two pairs of consecutive angles are supplementary. It's those angles that are connecting the bases, those are the ones that are supplementary. So I've gone ahead and circled those here. When we're talking about a trapezoid, the bases are going to be the two lines that are parallel. And then some trapezoids, so those are the basics for a trapezoid. So some trapezoids can be isosceles trapezoids, and I want to focus on that today. So the properties of an isosceles trapezoid. It's all the same properties of a trapezoid, meaning that the sides and the angles properties, those apply, but also the sides, the non-parallel sides are congruent. So you'll see that these two sides are congruent. That's the biggest thing that you can usually use to identify an isosceles trapezoid. When that happens, those diagonals are also congruent. So this diagonal is going to be congruent to this diagonal. When that happens, when you have those two non-parallel sides that are congruent, then also these angles at the base are congruent. And so as I mentioned before, our bases are considered the parallel ones, the parallel lines. So the base angles attaching to the parallel lines there and over here are going to be congruent to each other. So this one's congruent to this is congruent to this. They are not necessarily congruent to each other. Okay, so let's take a look and apply some of those rules or those properties that we just learned. Make sure to grab your notebook, write the properties down, and then let's do this practice together. So here's our trapezoid. Quadrilateral ABCD is an isosceles trapezoid. Bam, that means that this guy is going to be congruent to this guy, and this one is parallel to this. That's the very least that we know. So if AC is 4y minus 5, BD is, so let's write that in. Oh, AC is this guy right here. So you know what? I think using a highlighter might help differentiate or identify which is which. So AC is this guy right here. And then BD is 2y plus 3. That's this guy right here. Well, that's helpful because we know that these diagonals are congruent. So we know that these two things are going to be congruent. And then BA, which is over here, that is 8 plus 2x. And CD is 8x minus 40. So CD over here, 8x minus 40. We're going to solve for x and y. Okay, let's start with that first one. ACBD, like I said, they are the diagonals, and those diagonals are congruent. So we can say 4y minus 5 equals 2y plus 3. Let's go ahead and minus 2y from both sides. At the same time, to save a little time, we can add 5 to both sides as well, so plus 5. If we do that, we end up with 4 minus 2 gives us 2y equals 8. Divide both sides by 2. Oops, my pen's drying out there. And we wind up with y equals 4. Excellent. Let's go ahead and box our answer because that's a good idea when you're working on homework on paper. Now the next part of this says 8 plus 2x, and this side over here is 8x minus 40. Well, because we know this is an isosceles triangle, these guys are congruent, which means they equal each other. So 8 plus 2x equals 8x minus 40. Let's go ahead and minus 2x just so that we don't get a negative variable. I don't know. You don't have to do it that way. You could move the 8x to the other side if you wanted. And then let's plus 40 over here, plus 40 over here. So we end up with 48 equals 6x. Divide both sides by 6, we get x equals 8. Go back, read the question. It says solve for x and y, and we have successfully done that. So that is an isosceles trapezoid. If you have any questions, let your teacher know. Otherwise, great work, and we'll see you next time.